Whoa, you're breaking the matrix.
You're listening to the Theology of Games podcast, your source for gaming news, reviews, and interviews with the top voices in the industry. Find us online at theologyofgames.com. And now, here are your hosts, Scott Firestone and Jeremiah Isley.
Welcome, everybody. This is the Theology of Games top 10 games of 2015. Pay no attention to the graphic down below because...
Or the tweet that went out earlier today.
Yes. I don't think I can... Here, we're just going to turn it off. There we go. It's gone. It is not 2014. That was a whole year ago. I lost a year somewhere in there, I think. But anyway, let's introduce ourselves. Hey, I'm Jeremiah Isley. I am one of the Theology of Games guys, and this guy is...
I'm Scott Firestone, the other half of Theology of Games.
The other...
And we are here to talk about the best games we played last year.
That's right. It's the top games of 2015. And Scott, how do we pick the games of 2015? How do we go about populating this list?
Well, I know a lot of people will say, well, actually, that game came out in 2014 or whatever. This is not about when it was published, because some games are published in Germany in one year, but they don't make it to the States until the next year. So to get rid of all that rigmarole, we just say, these are the best games we played in 2015. Now, we try and keep it recent games. It's not like, oh, I played El Grande for the first time, and that's made my top 10 games of 2015. No, I mean, we try and keep them recent. But at the same time, we're not going to worry about if it was published a year ago or so. So these are all recent games played in 2015, the top 10 that we loved.
The top 10. Yeah, so like you said, these may... Like, there could be a print and play that has been around for a year or two or whatever before it hit Kickstarter and then finally got to the market. Whatever it is, they are games that we have played in 2015. So, number 10, Scott, why don't you go ahead and take the lead on this one? Your 10th
Okay, my number
game.
10, it's La Granja. It's published by Stronghold Games, and I don't remember who designed it. Oh, crap, I'm sorry. It is a farming game, and you think, oh, I have Agricola. Do I need two of those?
Yeah, we need more farming games.
What's wrong with farmers?
There's nothing wrong with
backbone of this country.
It's true.
It doesn't really feel like Agricola, although, I mean, in the basic sense, you're building up crops and then you're taking them to town. But basically what these guys did, and they are upfront about it in the rules, is that they took a bunch of mechanisms from a different game and kind of mushed them together in this game, including Castles of Burgundy and Luna and even Glory to Rome, with cards that, depending on where you put them on your player mat, they do different things, and so you can get these cool combos going and things like that. It's pretty meaty.
Yeah.
I would definitely put it on the higher end of the Euro spectrum, and solid game. If you like heavy Euros, you should definitely check this one out.
Awesome.
That's my number 10, La Granja.
Number 10, La Granja. For me, number 10 was Best Treehouse Ever from Green Couch Games by Scott Alms. Little drafting card game, but it's another... You know, drafting's kind of become this trend in the gaming world as the last 2 or 3 years. But this one is somewhere between a little bump up from Sushi Go, but not the full depth of like Seven Wonders. So, Best Treehouse Ever is fun, and it's you're building a treehouse, and the prototype that I originally played was a lot of fun. And then when they added all the cards for the retail version, there's no two rooms are the same. So you're adding these rooms to your treehouse, and they're all unique and they're all fun. But it's a great little game. My kids love it. My gaming group loves it. Like everybody that I've played it with, it just works on all scales. And it's a nice clean little filler for your collection. So that's number 10 for me.
Nice.
Number 9. Interestingly enough, number 9 for me was Spyfall. This is the only game on the list that I actually don't own, but I loved it so much the first time that I played it that it had to make the list because it is just so good. The reason it didn't rank higher is because as good as it is, if you don't have the right group of people playing it, it's going to kind of fall flat a little bit. Fortunately, the times that I have played it, I've had the right group of people at the table, and we just kept playing for hours. Like we would just, all right, what's next? Let's do the next one, you know. So it really is a lot of fun, and so yeah, Spyfall. What's your number 9 game?
Oddly enough, it's also Spyfall.
What?
Yes.
This might be the only one
I
we
agree
agree
with you.
on.
It is. I think it probably is the only one we agree on. That's not to say we don't agree a lot, but not always.
Not always.
So, yeah, I agree with you. It's a really great game, but it is fragile. It is. It's not just the right group, but a group that's like social deduction is one thing, but to be able to think of a question on the fly to ask someone can be an extra layer of stress for people.
Yeah.
It's even stressful for me when I play this game. I'm always, am I asking the right question? But man, it's a great game.
It really is.
I don't know where they
cool.
came up with that idea, but it's so good.
I found that the more you play it and the more the people you play with play it, the more you kind of know all the different locations. So it's even easier to kind of find those questions. But yeah, it is a little fragile, but still it's a great game.
Absolutely. That's our number 9.
That's number 9. How about number 8?
Number 8 is a game called Elysium. And this was published by Asmodee and Space Cowboys here, and it was designed by Matt Dunstan and Brett Gilbert. It is a card drafting game where you're playing a demigod, a Greek demigod trying to raise up in the pantheon of gods. And there are, I want to say 8 different families that come in the game. So there's Ares and Aphrodite and these different Greek gods, and they all play very differently. And you'll play with 5 of those every game. So most games are going to be different because you're mixing together different families, and they're going to come out in different order. And you're drafting, and the coolest thing about it is there's a great mechanism for how you draft using these colored columns, and it's way too complex to get into right now. But
Sure.
just know it's really clever and creates a lot of turn angst. When am I gonna jump in and do this or grab that card, or if I don't do that, I will get totally blocked out here. And
Right.
really good game,
Very
great artwork, and I can't wait for an expansion.
Yeah, cool. My number 8 game is Flip City, which was published by Tasty Minstrel Games. I know Michael Mendez was really hot on this game when it came out, and I agree. Finally, somebody has created a deck builder that is not Dominion, and it doesn't consist of dealing 5 cards out from a giant stack of a deck of cards and buying from those and hoping that you get the one that you need. There's 10 unique cards, but there's only 5 unique cards. Think about that for a second. So the cards are double-sided, so there's actions you can take that flip the cards, that give you special abilities to help you try to kind of get that victory. And the goal of the game is you end up trying to like play a whole bunch of cards out. There's a couple different ways to win, and it's really fun, tight little game. Definitely, we talked about this before. There's definitely some room for some expansion on this, but there's a lot of depth in just the 5-card lineup that there is in this game. So I really enjoyed it, and it made it in at number 8 for me last year.
Nice. It does scream for an expansion, and I can't wait to play it.
Yeah. Number 7. Number 7 for me is Mistfall. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the designer's name.
Good luck.
Because I'm not European, so that's how that goes. But Mistfall is it harkens back to like Lord of the Rings, the card game, which we just talked about on the last podcast. But it's a different type of mechanic, and there's some really unique aspects of it with your life as sort of your deck and being able to do actions. And when you can no longer do those, then your character dies and your whole company goes away with you because it's a co-op game. But so it felt like Lord of the Rings because it's this fantasy setting and it's co-op and it's campaign. But it was definitely, there was enough uniqueness to it that it was really, really fresh in that genre. And we super enjoyed it. And one of the things we talked about, you and I talked about, was the fact that the rule book is a mess. But despite having to go back,
It really is.
despite having to go back and reread and look up things online of clarifications and whatever, it was still a fun game through all of that.
Yeah.
So it was totally worth that effort. So that it made it onto my list for that.
Very good. My number 7 game is Gold West.
Gold
But
West, young man.
I'm not going to talk about it right now because rumor has it that it will show up later, and we can talk about it then.
It just might show up later. Shall we move on?
Yes. Number 6.
Number 6.
My number 6 is Roll for the Galaxy.
The Roll for the
This
Galaxy.
is published by Rio Grande Games, and Tom Lehman, who did Race for the Galaxy, designed it. And then also Wei Hua Wang, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He helped him design that. It is not just Race for the Galaxy, the dice game.
Right.
It really feels like its own thing, but it kind of takes some of those same mechanics and streamlines them. One of the complaints I've always had myself about Race for the Galaxy is it is just obtuse. All those symbols and when things happen, and I know people are probably like, you're dumb. How can you play games if you can't get that game? But to me, it is super confusing.
It's
And
very...
there's no way I could bring that out with non-gamers.
Yeah, not a way. No way. It's very hieroglyphic.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And Roll for the Galaxy kind of streamlines that and makes it just simpler to wrap your head around.
Nice.
And it comes with just gorgeous dice, and even though it's dice, I wouldn't say it's hugely increasing the luck factor. There are ways you can manipulate dice and change things, and very clever game, and definitely worth being in the top 10.
Definitely. Cool. 6 for me is, if I can get this thing to move on here, is Dead Drop. Published by Crash Games, but designed by Jason Kotarski of Green Couch Games. Probably my favorite micro game. Not that I play a ton of micro games, but this one is great. It's 13 cards, and you are trying to figure out which card is face down on the table. And there's 3 different ways that you can gain information about cards that are out there. And it plays so quick, and it not only plays quick, but it teaches quick. You can teach a non-gamer how to play this game in like 3 or 4 minutes. I've played it with everybody, my gamer friends, my casual gamer friends, family, whatever. And it plays really well. Not maybe necessarily with the kids. It was a little high concept for them and just a lot to track. But just about anybody is going to pick up on this game, and it's a great little filler, and it's easy to get on the table. So definitely worth rolling right in there midway through the top 10 for me.
Nice.
All right, we are to number 5.
We're halfway done.
We're halfway there. My number 5 is Tiny Epic Galaxies. It's become my favorite dice game of all time. It's also my favorite Tiny Epic game of the series. I've played them all, including the expansion to Tiny Epic Kingdoms, which ended up being my game of the year last year, was it? Or maybe 2 years ago? I can't remember.
2 years ago, I think.
Maybe it's 2 years ago. But this one, in my opinion, the great thing about all the Tiny Epic games is they're all different. And this one was my favorite one of them all. And it is, like I said, it's become my favorite dice roller. There's engine building in it. There's resource management. There's no downtime for a dice roller. And a lot of dice games, it's a lot of, okay, I'm going to sit here and wait for you to roll your dice like 17 times and do some actions and try to do this or try to push your luck. Whereas with this one, there's none of that. You roll your dice, and everybody is watching what you're doing because they're going to try to jump in on your action too. So it's fun game, really streamlined, really just great. And the final product came out amazing too. The artwork is really, really nice.
Yeah, this just missed making my top 10. I agree with you. It is my favorite Tiny Epic game by far, I would say. And just really fun. The kids even love it. Like, they're just big fans of it too.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, you're number 6 or number 5. We're on number.
My
five.
number's I'm number. Well, my camera keeps popping out. Number 5 is Burgle Brothers.
Burgle.
So I like co-op games, but I'm not. Most of the time I'm leave it or take it. Mm-hmm. But Burgle Brothers, which was designed by Tim Fowers and self-published by him, is fun game. It's thematic. It's tension filled. It's the artwork, the aesthetic is just so cool on it. When they were explaining the rules, I was just sitting there going, "I'm gonna love this game. I'm gonna love this game."
Yeah.
And then I played it, and sure enough, I loved it. It is a great game. My kids and I have played. We've only played the 2-level game, kind of the intro game, and we've beaten it once and lost once. But and then I played the 3-level, the regular one with my game group, and it works. Everything works in that game. I love it.
Yeah, this one just missed in my top 10 too, and we said last podcast episode, this is one of my kids' favorite games. They love playing this game, and just solid co-op. Variations on some themes that you're used to in some of the co-op games, but thematically makes so much sense and makes it so much fun. Really, really solid game.
Yep.
We're trucking right along. Number 4. What's number 4 for you?
Number 4. I played this game very early in 2015. Yeah, I'm getting my years all mixed up. In 2015, and I said, okay, this is my front runner for Game of the Year. And so you can tell what a great year it was in 2015. Yeah. Because it went from front runner to number 4. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's a great game. It's Aquasphere from Stefan Feld and Tasty Minstrel Games. Love this game. It is, first of all, beautiful. I know it's kind of bright and garish, but I don't know. It's just something about it. I love the color scheme and the look of that game. But beyond that, it's just a solid, meaty Euro. Every turn, you're doing this simple thing. You're either programming a robot or you're sending that robot out to do the thing you programmed it to do. But beyond that, there are all these layers that add on, and everything interacts with everything else. And it is a brain burner, and I love Aquasphere.
Yeah, this one this was another one that's like right on the cusp for me. I think the only reason it didn't make it is because I think it was a little too meaty for most of my gaming friends, and it was hard for me to get on the table much. But it looks great. Like, I love all the shapes and the round modular boards and everything. Like, very, very cool game. Great design too. Multiple ways to score and achieve victory and all that. So good stuff. Yeah. My game, what are we on 4?
We're on 4.
Is also of a nautical theme. It's Nautilus Industries, an economic game. And I just realized this is the old cover. I don't think this is the current cover. Anyway, but it's an economic game from Lamplight Games, and it turns out I like economic games more than I realized. Mars Needs Mechanics is a good, solid, fun game, but this one, man, it hit me. It was so good. Just the way you can jockey for position as you're mining for these gems, and you can hold off and try to sell them as the value rises. But then there's also this stock tracker that the more that they sell, the more the stocks are worth, but then the value of the gems drop during the game. So there's this constant balance and back and forth with all the values. as complex as that all sounds, it actually plays really, really well. It's a little
Yeah.
fiddly. There's a good amount of housekeeping with it, but man, it's just a fun game. I really, really enjoyed it.
Nice.
All
What
right.
about your number 3?
We are hitting the top three, and it would be super cool if we had like music and brr, like top three, but we don't.
I can play my armpit. No? Oh,
Eh,
that's fine.
maybe
Don't
not.
worry about it.
All right. So number 3 for me was Two Rooms and a Boom. Now, I always make this disclaimer whenever I talk about this game, so I'll do it as quickly as I can right now because you've probably heard it if you know anything about us. Two Rooms and a Boom is by Tuesday Night Games, who is basically two guys. It's Alan Girding and Sean McCoy. Both of them I know very well. I've met them both since playing this game. Alan actually lives like literally maybe 10 minutes down the road from me, and he and I have become pretty good friends. And so that being said, I can speak as objectively as I can because I've played this game with, no lie, probably about 40 to 50 unique different game players from I mean teenagers in my old youth group to church members to gamer friends to friends and family that have been over for parties, and there has never once been somebody that was like, man, I hated that game. I don't want to play that game. It was dumb. Like there was one person that didn't want to play because they were so stressed out and didn't want to mess up.
Right.
But everybody loves the game. It's a great social deduction game. And so that's why I feel comfortable putting it in here at 3. It's a solid game. Even despite my personal relationship with the folks who are publishing it and created it, it still stands up. And anybody that's played it, I think, would agree.
It probably would have made my list too, but I don't have a copy.
It's in the works.
I got to give you crap about that every single time.
I know.
This is what I do. All right, my
What
number
about you?
3.
Top 3, here we go.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird one because I had this on last year's list.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, so we both played this very early in 2015, or what would that have been? It would have been late in 2014.
Right.
So like in December.
Right.
And I think it belonged on the list, but we were just playing the base game. And that was, it was a solid game and good. Since then, I have played, with many of the expansions, including the deluxe one, the Great Devourer.
Right.
And I'm telling you, when you start adding in these expansions,
Yeah.
then it becomes like a whole other game because the base game is good, but you're kind of on these rails. But when you can start deck building and adding in new factions, and it's a new game. And so I feel comfortable putting on this list again because what I put on last year was just a small piece of it.
Sure.
But Warhammer Conquest now is a solid game in its own right, and it's my number 3. I love it. It is a living card game, so just flush your money down that toilet. There's so many expansions for it, but man, each of them adds something cool and new to it, and it seems like such a simple thing. We're gonna fight over these planets. How can that be interesting? How can that be cool? But
And
man,
somehow
they've just
it
done
is.
Yes.
Yeah. This was again one of those ones that was like, 10.5 on my list. I think the only reason that I didn't get it on there is because it's a really deep game for 2 players, and I don't have a lot of people that I can get it on the table with as often, and because of the preconception of it. You have to kind of go into it having built your deck and that kind of thing, which I love,
Right.
and it makes the game what it is, and it's certainly a great game. It makes it a little tougher for me to get it on the table, which is probably the only reason that it didn't make the list for me this year. But it is a fantastic and solid, great game. But it will also take all your money.
I think that's the tagline for living card games.
Yes.
Living card games, they'll take all your money.
Take all your money. All right,
I'm happy to give it.
we are on to number 2.
Number 2, my number 2 game of the year. This game, I really had a hard time deciding which game to make game of the year. This came super close. It's Code Names, published by Czech Games and designed by Vlada Chvatel. I'm sure I'm butchering that name.
Good luck.
It's a word game. It's a word party game, and so you think, oh, it's like apples to apples or
Yeah.
something. No,
No.
you have to trust me on this. This is an instant classic party game. It is amazing. Have you played this yet, Jeremiah?
I have played it, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it
So,
wasn't until January, so
oh, okay, no, that's fine. I just didn't know if you had or not. It is so good. I can't. I just feel like I'm gushing about this game. It is a simple 5 by 5 grid of words, and there are two clue givers, and they're trying to get their team to guess the right words. And you can go one at a time. I'm going to give you this clue. You're going to guess this one word. But where this game really shines is when you try and get 3 words or 4 words for them to guess with one word clue.
yeah.
And so there is tons of please be on the same page as me. And I know that he knows this thing about pop culture or whatever.
Right.
So he can make this connection. And it is so great. I love this game. And what makes it's a great game, classic. What elevates it to amazing classic is this one little mechanism of one of those cards out there is an assassin. And if either team picks that word, they just instantly lose. And the first thing that I go, what a weird thing. But no, that's what makes this game great. Because at any moment, you have to make sure not only are you not giving a clue where they might give your opponents a color, but they might just insta-lose the game for you.
Right.
Love this game. Love Codenames.
It is a solid game. I have had a chance to play it, and it's super, super fun. Yeah, but like I said, I didn't play it till January, so all right. My number 2 game is, oddly enough, it has 2 in the title. It's between 2 cities. Stonemeyer's most recent published game, designed by Ben Rossett and Matthew O'Malley. Ben Rossett designed Mars Needs Mechanics, which I spoke of earlier.
Yep.
This is another. I think a lot of the games that made the list for me this year were just unique variations on standard classic games, and this is that. It's a tile laying game, but instead of everybody kind of placing tiles into one general playing area a la Carcassonne or what have you, or Future City, you are playing tiles on either side of you, so you're between 2 cities. Get it? See? But there's like this weird semi-cooperative competitive thing happening where you're working with the people on your left and on your right to build each city, because they're adding tiles on either side. But then the scoring gets all weird because you only score the lowest scoring city that you build. So you're trying to like build both of them equally, but also hope that the people you're working with are building better cities on either side. So it's such a fun, unique way to think about playing tiles.
Yeah.
We loved it. Like, first time we played it, we're like, yep, let's run this back. We got to play this again because this is a really, really good game. So yeah, I love it.
And it was really close to being in my top 10 too. Like we've said, 2015 was a great year for games, and
It really
this just
was.
barely didn't make it.
Yeah, I had a list, and I'm like, oh man, there can only be 10, So
Right.
there can only be one. All right, so whoa,
What happened?
what happened? Oh, we're at number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there
Did
it
that
is.
surprise you?
I think I just blew the surprise. So number 1, I'm going to go first, and I know it surprised you when I told you, but number 1 for me this year was Gold West by J. Alex Kevern, published by Tasty Minstrel Games. It's such a solid, complete game for me. It's right in my wheelhouse. I love that medium weight Euro game where there's enough depth, enough paths to victory and points, but nothing is too weighted down. Nothing is too fiddly. There's not too much housekeeping or analysis paralysis. Like everything just kind of makes sense with the game. And I just totally loved it. I knew as we were setting it up, I was like, oh, this game's going to be really, really good. And so for me, it's the game that's in my collection now that I don't always get to pull out on the table as much because it's not necessarily a family game. It's not, the kids aren't going to kind of get into it. But whenever I get it on the table, I'm like, oh yeah, this is just good. This is fun. So I loved it, and I put it at number 1 this year.
That's a solid choice, and it was on my list too. Not quite as high, but yeah, I played it again last week with my game group, and
Yeah.
it's so good. It's so many things work, and I love. Probably my favorite part is how each game will be different because there are little ways, whether it's the cards or the office.
Yeah.
There are going to be little ways where every game is going to be different, and so this game, these things are important, and so the board looks this way, and the next game, these things are important, so it looks this way, and the aesthetic is beautiful. It's just a great game.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Kingdom Builder in that aspect, where the ways you score are different every game. Like the mechanics are still the same, but the way that those mechanics score you points are different every time. So I thought that was a very unique, great way to get replayability out of a really good game. And there's not just one set strategy that's going to win you the game every time.
Right.
So
good choice.
Thanks.
I approve. My number 1 game.
Last but not least, your number 1 game is
Pandemic Legacy. Any other year it would have been Codenames, and like I said, I really did have a hard time. I almost picked Codenames because I've just had so much fun with it. But at the end of the day, I had a great. I mean, Pandemic Legacy was an experience. You're playing a campaign, and if you can swing it, you get the same group of people playing that game, and you are invested in it, and the characters you're invested in, and the arc of it. You want to. I could not wait to end a game and see what new thing was going to happen and what they were going to surprise me with.
Yeah.
And they did surprise me all throughout the campaign. And I'm telling you, it seems, people complain, oh, you only get to play the game X number of times. I played Pandemic Legacy 18 times.
I think you got your money's worth.
Outside of small, like social deduction games and party games and things like that, I play almost no games that many times.
Right, exactly.
So to say I'm going to play it 18 times, that's a solid, money's
Good
worth
on
right
you,
there.
Right, yeah.
Right. Also, somebody else bought the game, but that's not the point. I'm going to buy my own copy and play it eventually. But, it did so many things right. I always liked Pandemic, but just this game is amazing. And we were playing concurrently with another group, and so we'd compare and go, oh, what disease is this for you? And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you spoilers, but, just seeing things, and then they knew some things before we did, so they'd watch to see how we reacted when things would happen, and then we got ahead of them and did the same thing. We're just like, oh, here it comes, and you'd watch them open something, and it is so fun.
That's
and
great.
It's the number 1 game now on Board Game Geek. It surpassed Twilight Struggle.
Yeah, I saw that
I
saw that it did that, and I haven't had the chance to play it yet. Nobody in my group has gotten a hold. Well, I know one guy that has it, but he started playing it with like his family, and so we couldn't get in on it. And I was like, curses! But yeah, solid choice, obviously, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting in on it soon. But yeah, I mean, if you get 18 plays out of a game, there's very few games of that weight that I've actually played that many times. So that doesn't bother me at all in terms of that game, and that type of, you have to play it through and then that's it kind of thing. So I actually like the campaign feel of it. It feels kind of like a role-playing game type setting on a board. So
fall in love with your characters and something happens to one. No.
Exactly. So
This is Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and based on the fact that it's #1 game, based on the sales figures, and based on how much it's loved and how many top 10 lists it made, I'm sure there will be more seasons, and I cannot wait to play them.
yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to play season 1. So yeah, well, that's it. That's our top 10 list. We would love to hear from everybody out there. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Do you think we snubbed some games? I'm sure there's going to be lots of cries of outrage and heresy and whatnot out there, but we want to hear it. Let's talk about it. Comment on the comments below. Hit us up on the blog or on Facebook or Twitter, and give us your thoughts on what we picked and how you think we did.
Yeah, and there are a lot of games that it's not that we didn't like them, but we didn't even get a chance to play them. So if there's some glaring omission here, tell us. I know that there are people who love Time Stories and Blood Rage and all these other things.
Yeah.
We really think that those deserves it. Tell us, and we would love to play it and see if we agree with you or not. So
better yet,
games.
send us copies of those games and we'll play them, and maybe they'll make the list next year. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying.
Personality. All right.
So, yeah, I think that's all we've got right now, right?
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And like we said, we're Scott Firestone, and
I'm Jeremiah Isley, and we are Theology of Games, and we are also out of here. We'll see you guys next time.
bye. Thanks for tuning in.
You've been listening to the Theology of Games podcast with Jeremiah Isley and Scott Firestone. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate your subscription to the podcast and your review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day, and until next time, get a game on the table.
Zero viewers. Awesome.